It's worth pointing out, because somebody has just made this comment, that when addressing the claims that Queen Elizabeth's purported joke about Boris Johnson's resignation, it's essential to balance the salacious appeal of anecdotal revelations with the practical understanding of royal protocol and character. And the late Queen's quip, reportedly relayed in Out by Tim Shipman, which comes out at the end of November, frames her as amused by her former Prime Minister's foibles. It's a humorous aside that places Boris Johnson in the light of frivolity, suggesting he was better suited to the stage. However, the depiction invites scepticism, especially from figures like Liz Truss and Nadine Dorries, who've been quick to point out. Both of them have come forward on Twitter, casting doubt on the veracity of this tale. Their arguments rest on two main points. First, that the Queen gave her lifelong adherence to discretion, and she wouldn't she wouldn't have indulged in such a remark, particularly one that might seem publicly disparaging of her Prime Minister, her First Minister. And secondly, they emphasise that any insinuation the Prime Minister would have significant influence over the Queen's funeral arrangements is far-fetched. The Earl Marshal, whose role involves meticulously planned state ceremonies years in advance, would have overseen these duties, effectively limiting the Prime Minister's involvement to merely protocol and presence. Critics, therefore, including sources familiar with the late Queen's demeanour, would argue that the language of the joke, that idiot, strays from her typically measured tone. The Queen's preference for wry, understated humour and her cautious approach to public comments would suggest she was unlikely to have engaged in such a quip that bordered on the undignified. The royal household's customary silence on such matters aligns with their non-committal response, maintaining the tradition of avoiding entanglement in gossip or speculative narrative. Tim Shipman's recounting of the Queen's final days in Balmoral depicts them as happy ones, surrounded by family and close aides. In this setting, it's conceivable that humour surfaced as a comfort in the middle of her decline. Still, this specific remark, if true, resonates with a sentiment allegedly prevalent within royal circles about Boris Johnson's capricious leadership style. Shipman's portrayal of senior royals' response to Johnson's controversial prorogation of Parliament in 2019 underscores the tension between the monarch, bound by constitutional limits, and the Prime Minister, who she is highly likely to have described as roguishly theatrical. I think that idiot is perhaps taking it a little far. These things happen, yes. Shipman's book goes beyond this single anecdote, illustrating Prince William's desire for robust challenging of advice in future reigns, hinting at an era of more direct engagement with political figures, and the conversation between Johnson and then Prince Charles, touching on the contentious topic of acknowledging slavery, showcases the delicate balance between tradition and modernity in royal statesmanship, a balance Boris Johnson is depicted as handling with dismissive bravado. The wider implications of Shipman's claim speak to a broader theme: how a monarch's interactions with the Prime Minister shapes not only public perception but also the intricacies of statecraft. And whether these remarks are historically accurate or embroidered by effect by friends, they reveal the tensions and the idiosyncrasies that animate Britain's constitutional monarchy. As such, Truss and Dorries' insistence that the Queen's unwavering commitment to discretion is not without merit. The Queen's legacy, marked by an exceptional ability to maintain a facade of neutrality in the middle while ploughing through these turbulent political waters, stands somewhat at odds with that anecdote as presented. However, of course, it is a slap down to Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, who in his memoir Unleashed reveals utterly indiscreet information about the Queen's health in the final days of her life. And perhaps it is payback. So while Tim Shipman's Out tantalises with purported private moments of the Queen's of royal levity, the scepticism voiced by contemporary political figures serves as a reminder of the unlikelihood that Queen Elizabeth II, even in her most candid moments, would compromise her lifelong discipline for a fleeting jibe at a silly man. The echoes of this story, true or not, affirm the enduring enigma of a monarch who balanced wit with wisdom, power with prudence.